Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. Today, we are going to be discussing chapters 5 and 6 of Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson, wherein Kaladin meets the king. So that's a big deal for most people. We get a very brief Sadius perspective, which nobody was expecting, I would think. And then Shallan learns some more stuff. She's still researching this strange spren. Oh, that was like a whole series of S's there. That was tricky. I'm Data, and with me today is
Jamie,
Jack, and Joe. And I still have a cough, so sorry in advance.
So hang on to something, everybody. The Sanderlanche is about to begin. So yeah, 2 chapters this week, and maybe not the most eventful. We're still kind of setting some stuff up, but what did you guys think of these 2 chapters?
Yeah, look, I'm enjoying seeing Kaladin and Dalinar sort of interacting a little bit more and watching how that dynamic is sort of growing and changing. The Sadius perspective, we've sort of been like, does he even have a wife? Oh, he does have a wife. And then here's the wife. She sounds kind of like the sort of ruthless that I would expect Sadius to have in a wife. I hope we sort of see a bit more of her. I'm intrigued by her at this point, even though it was a very, very small glimpse. I think it was interesting to sort of see that there was a bit of from Sadius that sort of, he wishes it didn't have to go the way it did, but it has to, and that's it. Like, he needs to be able to run this thing and take over, and I think he's going to be a pretty formidable foe, especially if you piss him off, just like Dalinar is about to. That'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. And the stuff with Shallan and Yasna and Patton, like, really? That's all you could come up with? It would be so weird. Like, I kind of wish we got the first time Patton spoke, because you wouldn't expect it to speak, like, straight off. I kind of expected it to evolve into something, like Syl takes on a human form sometimes when talking to Kaladin, and I was kind of thrown by, already, like, it's talking, but it's still a pattern that's talking. It just threw me a bit. But I kind of I would have liked to have been a fly on the wall the first time it starts speaking to Shallan. That would have been quite interesting. And yeah, look, lots of stress going on with Yasna as well. You kind of feel for her, but it sounds like they're not too far out. Like, they're going to be away from the mainland for a while, but it's this is their last leg of the journey. Maybe it's 5 times as long as the rest of the journey. I don't know, but I'm hoping we get there soon, because it'd be really cool to now put a bunch of Knights Radiant, or sort of Knights Radiant, together with Dalinar while he's trying to go, well, I want the ideals, and Yasna's going, well, we've got the powers, but we don't have the ideals, and you got these 2 people that really are like, just put them in a room and figure it out. That would be really exciting to see. And then Kaladin sitting there going, does he know? Oh. Yeah, that must be stressful. I'm waiting for Dalinar to do the, like, when Harry's wearing the invisibility cloak and Dumbledore's like looking at him. It's kind of like this. I know what's going on here without really knowing what's going on there. So,
do we think that he does have an inkling about what's going on here?
Maybe not with Kaladin specifically, but he knows stuff is happening.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, it doesn't seem like Yasna's told anybody about what she can do either. So it's weird that he knows all of these people who are exactly what he's looking for, and no one is telling him.
Exactly. Yeah. It's probably not something you'd be really comfortable just to come out and say, though.
Nah, probably not.
By the way, I have these powers now.
Well, especially
really cool.
Given how the church looks on the Knights Radiant, then yeah, it's not something you're going to just bring up unless you're like Yasna and don't give a shit what the church thinks, I guess.
True.
Although she's still keeping it a secret, but from her perspective, who knows? Maybe it's just like a knowledge thing. She wants to be the only one that knew. But yeah, there's I'd never thought about it before until you said it, but I'm like, yeah, Pattern is not that creative a name, is it?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. This basket that I can see in front of me, we'll call you Basket. It's just like, yeah, it's what you are. It's not your name. I hope Patton comes out with a better name.
Well, yeah, because apparently it does talk to her, but she doesn't say like, oh, it told me that its name was Pattern. She says that she named it that. So, like, is one day this little guy just gonna be like, oh, by the way, that's not my name.
Yeah.
Yeah. My name's Jeff. I don't know if you knew that, but that's my name.
She's like, why didn't you say anything? He's like, you never asked.
That or his name is like Lars, and everyone just keeps thinking he's shouting lies.
He's just got an accent.
He's just shouting his name.
I like that. Yes.
Yeah, this is all pretty fun. The Sadius thing threw me for a bloody loop. I'm just like, his name wasn't on that list of perspective people. Once again, that list has lied to us. Did it last time when we had Teft got his. Teft was a perspective briefly, and it's like, no, that wasn't on the list either. So it's like, well, what are we doing here with that list of names? And I'll admit, like, when it's like going into detail about his wife and how she's like the deadliest spy master in the camp, I'm just like, this makes even less sense why we barely heard of her in the first book.
All right.
I mean, okay, you can make the argument as the spy master, it makes sense that she'd keep to the shadows, but still, like, she's clearly about to become a very important character, and she, like, blink and you miss her entire presence in the last book. Like, come on. But for all that, like, their conversation was really cool, really fascinating. Like, your classic villains, like saying, soon our plan will be complete, or... But with, obviously with more nuance than that. I enjoyed their conversation. I thought it was fun. I liked Kaladin on guard duty for the meeting with the king. Like, it was just fun to see that. Like, it's going to create more and more conflict with Adolin, because Adolin's going to be like, oh, look at this cocky bastard who speaks up in front of the king. Yeah,
it doesn't seem like the best look for dark-eyed Kaladin. He doesn't know his place, apparently.
Yeah. Like, it was really fascinating. It was good to see just Kaladin's instincts are just still there. He's still, dismissive of the authority of the Bright Eyes, and it's coming out at even these rather unfortunate junctures, which is going to cause more problems. But so I get the feeling we're in for another book of Adolin going, you can't trust this person, and Dalinar going, but I'm gonna. Hopefully it'll bear more fruit than him trusting Sadius, at least.
I was gonna say it didn't work out well last time.
Yeah. But yeah, and then Shallan stuff was fairly interesting, but I think more of a backseat to some of the other stuff like we read earlier. Although, yeah, I was interested to see Patton and just some of the things that he can do. I do like lies from the Yalb. That was a fun line. So yeah, and then the bloody cliffhanger to end that on.
Yeah, right. Jamie mentioned that they were just, they're almost there. They're getting close or whatever. And I was like, well, I mean, assuming that whatever is at the end right there isn't going to be relevant, but yeah. Bit of a cliffhanger.
I gotta admit,
I forgot that line.
Yeah. I kind of thought, I wonder if something's going to go wrong in these chapters last time, but it was after predicaments, because it was when you said, oh yeah, 5 chapters for next time. Like, 5? That's an unusually high amount. They've got to be shorter, and that means shit's got to go down.
Interesting. Yeah, am I spoiling things by saying something like that? I don't know.
But you kind of got to tell us how many chapters we're going to read, though it's not going to work otherwise.
That's a fair point. Yep, hadn't taken that thought train that far. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It turns out that absolutely nothing happens. It's just there's 5 chapters of everyone saying everything's great, everyone's happy.
So, why was there screams and smoke? Yalb tried to light a fart on fire again.
Yalb.
Kaladin's chapter is just going to be him sitting around trying to figure out just the right design for their new patch. It's very important to get it just right.
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me, something else I should bring up about the Kaladin chapters. Fucking Moash. Just and Kaladin's like, dude, shut the fuck up. And Moash is like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he takes the feedback and he's like, no, you're right. So I think that's actually kind of a positive sign in someone when, they're like, oh, okay, no, you were right.
Partly, but
kind of turns out that it's his best friend giving him some advice. So I was wondering how Dak feels about that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, the stuff we see about Moash is that he does seem like he's trying to be apart from everyone else. Like, he doesn't get the tattoo like the rest do. He gets it on his arm. He's the only one who doesn't see Kaladin as a squad leader. He sees him as a friend. I'm like, okay, there's potential this could be a really good thing. Maybe Moash comes around and be's a really good guy. Or there's a potential it really goes the other way and he thinks he thinks for himself a bit and thinks, I don't need to listen to Kaladin. I'm going to do my own thing. I still we still need to know who's the dude Moash wants to kill, because that was kind of a tantalizing mystery dropped at the end of the last book, and I get the feeling that's going to rear its head again.
Oh yeah, we haven't heard anything about that, huh?
Yeah.
He's out there to kill somebody. Well, and you make an interesting point in that, given that the Kaladin's like, yeah, this is like my one friend. If there was going to be betrayal, that would make it even worse. That it's like, oh yeah, this is my friend, not just a guy in my squad.
Yeah. Also, how the fuck is Moash your only friend? Like, you're friends with Teft and Rock, and even alright, they do see you as their boss. Like, I thought you're still on friendly terms with them. Maybe it's a work buddies arrangement. And even leaving that to the side, the fuck about Syl?
Well, his thing about the other guys was more that they're like kind of like worshipful of him almost, where he's like that it's hard to have a friendship there. I don't know.
I don't believe that about Rock.
Yes, I was about to say I don't think we've gotten that impression from Rock, but I could see it with some of the others.
Even Teft, I can kind of see it, but not to that extent. So that could be Kaladin inflating it in his own mind, but
it's true.
Yeah,
Teft is a bit of a grumpy bastard, so that it's hard to combine those two. It's like grumpy old guy and worshipful don't really go together.
Yeah. I mean, Teft is kind of his mentor in radianting.
Oh, that's true too. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, I like these chapters. Now I feel like not a ton happens. We get some perspective, like in so far as dialogue and some information as to what may be taking place. We get a lot, but mostly these chapters to me seem to be set up for stuff to come into the effect later. And so I do like the Kaladin stuff. The Sadeas perspective was not expected, and I'm kind of like, it was almost too what's the word? It was almost too
mustache twirly.
Yeah, like it was like very Lady Macbeth. Like, oh yeah, I've got my machinations together, and nobody knows I have these spies because I'm so secretive and done the best at what I do, bub. And like, it just didn't fully realize to me. So it was okay, But yeah, like I wasn't like over the top impressed with that part. Other than that, the Shallan stuff is very interesting. I feel like we're getting a lot of good information, maybe some inaccurate information, but time will tell on that. We'll talk about that when we get there. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens for sure. I mean, this is just more setup for hopefully interesting things to happen.
Yeah. There's definitely some setting up stuff here. You're not wrong, and there's but I feel like there's some fun little moments and details. Yeah, basically you're right. Okay, well I guess let's move into these two chapters then. Before the chapters we talked about it last time, but in case you guys hadn't seen before we actually read it, you got the tattoos and the new Bridge 4 uniform insignia, and it's interesting to me how much you can change these glyphs and still have them mean the same thing. And it kind of shows, like, here's the traditional glyph and here's the stylized version of that same glyph, where you're like, I see how you get one from the other, but they're so different that it's hard to imagine that you would see these two things and get the same meaning from them immediately, which it just must make it very hard to read glyphs in general, I feel like. But our first one is ideals. And Navani's journal in this one says, the sign on the wall proposed a greater danger, even than its deadline. To foresee the future is of the Voidbringers. So yeah, we hadn't hit on that last time when we saw like this thing is coming in this many days. I think that it's easy for us to forget from our perspective that, like, philosophically, that's a meaningful thing to them, is someone predicting the future that is bad.
Witchcraft.
Burner.
A duck.
She weighs the same as a duck.
She must be made of wood.
Wood? And thus...
She's a witch!
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
And then my favorite bit is at the very end when they weigh her and they're going to burn her. She's like, tis a fair cop.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, they got me.
Yep. Can't argue with that sort of science right there.
Yeah.
It's good science.
The chapter starts with a crier who is out here walking around. He got the king's words written down, which means it's a she because, it can't be a dude. Dudes can't read. So we get the very last bit of the thing, and then Kaladin's like, do it again. And he's already made her repeat it 3 times, and so she's kind of annoyed about it. But basically, the proclamation, I don't think, is much new to, well, a little bit new. So Dalinar's High Prince of War. We knew that was coming. But part of his attempt to, like, take he said he was going to take the High Prince's games away from them, is that from now on, all gem hearts will be collected by 2 High Princes working in tandem, and they will be the property of the crown, and the crown will distribute the riches as he sees fit. So that's a pretty big difference to how shit works out here. And I can see why the other High Princes, would be upset about this sort of thing, where they're doing all the work and the king gets the money. And so Dalinar's going to set up a rotation of High Princes and basically dictate who should be working together based on strategy. And so finally, the word is out. The proclamation has gone out, and Kaladin and his crew have now heard it, and they're like, wow, no, Dalinar was not joking. They're really going to hate this.
Yeah, guess you guys have got your work cut out for you.
Yeah, you get to be the ones having to bodyguard Dalinar while this is going down. Aren't you glad you took this job?
Maybe we can get all the various assassins to come at the same time and fight each other.
That's strategy right there.
Yeah, that's using your ass.
Yeah.
It's like you work harder, work smarter, not harder.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's time to go off and bodyguard. And I like the note where he's like, Colin gave us requisition rights from Camp Quartermaster. So Rock, as our quartermaster, I want you to take that extra room and pack it full of food. And Rock gets a giant grin. He's like, full? How full? Very full. He's so excited. And Mart is like, hey, no shells in there. And Rock's like, oh, don't you want to be strong? I want to keep my teeth, thank you. I will fix 2 things. One for the brave and one for the silly. You may choose. Oh, I love Rock. He's the best.
Well, all I hear when he was doing this was McBain. my new movie is a comedy. It's called McBain. Let's get silly.
I could see that. Yeah, Rock's accent changes on occasion in my head, like what I feel like he sounds like. But I could totally see that. Yep.
Yeah. Just the hopelessly inaccurate, like Germanic, Slavic, Russian, like stereotype that you get out of Hollywood.
Yeah, exactly. Completely
to
generic.
me, he sounds like. Yeah, this is an inside joke between me and Data, but to me, he sounds like Bjorn.
Yeah, I could see that too from our D&D game once upon a time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, we were just talking about before the record started. Like my son is going to see Bad Boys 4 with his uncle tonight, and Joe was saying how he's like, I didn't see Bad Boys 3, didn't like Bad Boys 2, which I liked Bad Boys 2, but it's got the one guy who, what's his name? Peter Stormare. Who?
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, he has that quality of like Russian, German, whatever. Just like throw him in there, he'll do it.
Yeah, he's good. He played a good devil.
Yeah, he did. Constantine. I mean, not as good as the nihilist in The Big Lebowski. But
sure. Yeah. We come back tomorrow. We got off your Johnson.
Yeah, he's in Bad Boys 2 as a Russian, and he does a funny job of it. But
Johnson.
What do you need that for, dude? But
your Johnson.
In the parlance of our time.
In the parlance of our time. This is a big case. There's a lot of ins, a lot of outs.
A lot of strands in the old duder's head.
Yeah, a lot of strands in the old Duderino's head.
Oh,
watched that movie in ages.
It's a good movie. So I forgot how we got here. Oh, Rock's accent. Yeah.
Yep.
So if Rock wasn't like this enormous, monstrous guy, I could totally see like a Peter Stormare playing him.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I still picture him as Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Dolph Lundgren, like He-Man era Dolph Lundgren, or are we talking about like Expendables era Dolph Lundgren?
You know, I've never seen the He-Man movie that he was in. I should at some point, just so I can say I've seen it.
Yep, you should. It's ridiculous.
But like, no, I sort of picture him more as his Ivan Drago phase.
Ah, okay, very very fit. Got it.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know why, because they're definitely different movies, but when everybody talks about Masters of the Universe with Dolph Lundgren, it makes me think of that Warlock movie from the 80s, which is a way different movie.
Yeah.
But just like, it gives me that same vibe.
The vibe. I totally see what you mean.
Like I think one of them reused the other one's sets or something, or
Maybe maybe there's more to it than I thought.
Yeah.
I like Warlock Guy from Mortal Kombat though. That's a good movie.
I wouldn't say that.
It's good for when it came out.
It was fun.
It's fun. I will give it. Yes, that's fair.
Yeah. If you want some wacky stuff, watch Annihilation. Now that's a terrible film.
Oh,
moving on.
Yeah. So as they're about to leave, Sigzil's like, "Hey, Kaladin, you promised that we could, test out your abilities." I love Kaladin's like, "Promised? I didn't promise." Well, you grunted. So,
in the parlance of our time.
Yeah. In Kaladin speak, the grunt means promise, obviously.
Yeah.
So, Sigzil has come up with some ideas to test things. I love Sigzil. He's got this scientific bent to him where he's like, "Oh, we need to measure this stuff." I appreciate that.
Just imagining Navani going to Dallin. It's like, I need someone who can help me work on these scientific methods. And Kaladin's by the door is like, if you don't mind, I have a guy. And it's like, the fuck kind of guys do you have in your squad? And he's just like, I got all kinds. Here you go, and just throws Sigzil at them. Like, have fun with him.
Yeah. I got a one-armed guy if you want. I mean, I don't know what you could do with him, but he's got a lot of cousins, I hear.
Actually, on the topic of people in Kaladin's squad, just going back a page, I got the book open on my lap as we record this, going back over as we read. And something I caught, which I didn't catch the first time, but the epigraph on the next chapter has made it stand out. Shen is coming back for seconds, and they're just like, oh, Shen's finally joining the crew. He's like, he's getting his tattoo. He's coming and eating with the rest of us. I'm like, oh, that's sweet. And then you read the epigraph for the next chapter. And I'm like, oh no, oh God, this is not good.
Those two seem like they could potentially be related.
Yep. Only just caught that now. I'm like, ah.
I mean, I would almost say that it's like he does seem unusual for a Parshman, so maybe that makes sense. But the thing is, we don't know many Parshmen. We've only been told, like, by the people who keep them enslaved, essentially. We've been told what their qualities are, which, how reliable is that? So whether he's unusual for one, I don't know that we can say. Maybe if you actually treated any of the Parshmen like, decent human being, then they would all, act like that.
Yeah. Plus, Shen might still be pissed about that whole dancing in their bones thing.
As he probably should, to be fair. I mean,
yeah.
It's war, but, like, come on.
You can't spell war crime without war. Wait, what?
But I was wondering if anyone would be thinking about that at this point, because it is. I feel like they're kind of trying to draw your attention here. Like, hey, is there something going on? Sigzil's devising some experiments to figure this stuff out, and Kaladin isn't exactly excited about it, but yeah, okay. Honestly, it's in his best interest to figure out what he can do also. It's not like this is inconvenient. And then on their way to the where the king lives, and it even says in here that the king's given that place a name, and I don't remember what the Pinnacle, I think. And so on their way, Syl has a bit of a conversation with Kaladin about how he's still not happy. Like, he saved these guys. Why can't he laugh with them and enjoy this? And Kaladin, in what I feel like we're coming to discover just classic Kaladin, is like, something bad's going to happen. Things can't keep being good for me. That's just how life is. You poor guy. Cheer up. It's okay for now.
Are you happy now? I've never been happy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the thing is, we know that the assassin in white is coming to kill the person Kaladin's trying to protect. So he's not wrong that there are bad things coming in. But, I mean, you don't know that. Jeez, live a little bit. And Syl, he asks her about the countdown on the wall. And Syl is like, have you ever seen that before? Syl's like, I remember something bad. Seeing what is to come isn't of honor, Kaladin. It's something else, something dangerous. So here we've got the name honor being trotted out again in relation to presumably to the foreign religion that worship the Almighty, since we were told last chapter that that's basically another name for the source of the name for the Almighty. But also Vorinism doesn't like predicting the future, and apparently honor isn't big on it either. So there you go.
Is that Odium's whole thing, and that's why he's the bad guy? He's like, I can see the future.
I mean, that'd be like a random, like, his thing is like hatred or something. So just like, yeah, that lets me see the future. Well, how do those relate? I don't know.
People hate the future.
Ruin's Addy power could see the future. Kind of.
Addian, that's true. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, and if you'll recall, preservation either saw the future to some extent or just like arranged things really well, because all the way back when he like first imprisoned Ruin, he set this plan in motion to eventually like win. And it was like 1,000 years before Vin is chosen, he sets the plan in motion. So it seems like maybe a lot of them have some sort of connection to the future.
Yeah. Honor's the one who's just like, man, I don't want to see no fucking future. And Artyom's going, that's why you're gonna die.
I mean, if one person can see the future and one person can't, I feel like that's a big
liability.
Somebody's got a big advantage there. You know? We cut to the Sadius perspective. Our good friend Torol Sadius, which we established last time that we had heard his name once before, but it's not common.
What a friend.
Yeah, we love this guy, right? I mean, he's no Straff Venture, but he's getting there. He's betraying, murdering, all the good stuff.
Also, unlike Straff, he seems to be a lot more competent.
You're not wrong. Yeah. And so he's got Oathbringer, Dalinar's shard blade, and he's just sitting at this table, and he's shoved the blade through the middle of the table, and it's just staring at it.
I would be so pissed. Like, dude, really?
Was that necessary?
Yeah, you
what we
the
didn't
blade wherever
see
you
is
want.
this. Yeah, he doesn't have a single table in his whole like camp that is okay or that is still intact, because every table he goes to, he's just like ka-chunk.
It's his thing. It's his shtick.
His shtick, exactly.
He's like, Lord Sidaeus, I know we can soulcast more tables, but sir, please, we're running out of feces to soulcast into tables.
Like when he finally unveils his master plan, betrays everyone or whatever, and it's like, Torol Sadius is dead. You will call me Tablebane.
Tablebane.
I like Jamie's point that he's in charge of this camp. He could literally do whatever he wants with his shard blade. He'd get a nice display or whatever. He's like, it's just convenient to slash holes in my tables.
I wonder,
He just wants his sword in the stone moment, you know?
Who doesn't, really? I mean, wouldn't you want to pull a sword out of the stone if you had the opportunity?
Not if it was my dining table.
Yeah, okay, fair. Yeah.
But also, like, they're on the Shattered Planet. Like, this place is entirely made out of rock. He's got plenty of rocks to choose from. Why does he have to make it the table?
True. And we're told it's a fine stonework table. So it's a nice table.
Now it's a fine slash table.
I wonder, since we mentioned soulcasting the tables a second ago, like, if he puts a hole in the table with the shard blade and then he takes the shard blade out, can he get someone in there to soulcast the hole away? Or does he have to have something filling the hole first?
Interesting question.
And then soulcast whatever's filling the hole.
He puts abridgment bits in the hole and then he soulcasts it.
Yeah, I could see that.
I'm curious about this too now. Maybe we'll see. Probably not, but he's staring at the sword and he's like, man, I've wanted this sword for so long, but like some little bit of him is wondering if Dalinar didn't like get the better of him in this exchange somehow. As ridiculous as that sounds. I also like he compares Dalinar to a favored axe hound who he'd been forced to put down, but the poison hadn't quite done its work, and so it comes whimpering back to the window the next day, which that's horrifying. Thank you for that picture.
Just this whole exchange, I had the line from Mean Girls in my head. It's like Dalinar saying to Sadius, why are you so obsessed with me?
It's true. Then his wife comes in, Ialai, who, when I see her name, it reminds me of Iadon from Elantris, which is not a positive, like,
crazy naked
so, yeah. And we're told, and I like the first thing we're told about her is like, she's not really pretty, particularly as the years stretched long, because we find out he's 50, so she's probably somewhere in the range. And
I like how this is his perspective too. So this is him thinking this, like, yeah, my wife's not very pretty. She's just, you know, she's good at what she does.
He does seem to love her for who she is, though.
Yeah, right?
They're a match made in hell.
And she's just like, you've destroyed my table, I see. She's not thrilled, but she's not mad about it either, necessarily, I guess. And Dalinar is recruiting heavily, and I've taken the opportunity to put some more of my associates among the staff of his war camp. Soldiers? What do you take me for? That's way too obvious. So she's getting spies into Dalinar's camp. And Sadius' perspective is like, I mean, Dalinar should be dead, but since he's not, at least we can depend on him to basically destroy himself with stuff like this stupid proclamation. But then Sadius brings out that he's like, you know what? I don't like this. I don't like what we've been doing. This stupid game out here. I want war, not hours of marching on the off chance we'll find some little skirmish. I like back to the days when we were conquering this kingdom. That's what I want. Conquest, the only thing that made him feel alive any longer. The only time he felt like a youth again. So yeah, he's going to start a war so he can. It's a midlife crisis thing. I need a war to make me feel good.
Yeah. Hey, I've been there.
Midlife crises. Some dudes buy cars. Some get dogs or alpacas. Some just need to wipe out a kingdom and claim it for themselves. That old chestnut.
Man, an alpaca as your midlife crisis. I like it.
I was thinking of Modern Family.
Never watched Modern Family, but now on an alpaca. Not really. I don't think that would go well. They probably smell. Dalinar wants to play politician now, which is unsurprising. He always secretly wanted to be his brother. And so he's going to fracture the kingdom. And then with blood at my feet and Dalinar's own sword in my hand, I will forge a new Alethkar from flame and tears. Which there's a very dramatic, I don't want to say villain declaration, but it sounds kind of villainous.
Yeah. Flame and tears. Not flame and from the ashes it will rise this beautiful thing. It's like flame and tears.
Yeah, could have said flame and glory, but no, he actually wants people to suffer.
It's not great. But I like that Eli is like, but what if he succeeds? Like, she's considering the angles. Sadeas is like, he's an idiot. He'll never, everyone hates this. And Eli's like, well, but what if? He's like, oh, well, that's when we use your assassins, my dear. I'm going to conquer this kingdom anew, and then Yaakoved will follow. After all, the purpose of this life is to train soldiers. In a way, I'm only doing what God himself wants. Oh, isn't that a justification?
Also weird. Like, the purpose of this life is to train soldiers. What?
Yeah.
I mean, we've been told that, their whole thing...
Of all things.
We've been told before that, their whole thing is that they do stuff in life so that they can go to the afterlife and help the heralds in their battle to reclaim heaven, essentially. And so
I guess that makes more sense.
Yeah, that's what life here is. You make good soldiers so that they can go and help reclaim heaven.
Okay, well that's shot my theory to hell then, because I was going to say something about maybe Odium is working through Sadeas, but if he's talking about this is what God wants, and that's like their whole thing to fight off the armies of darkness or whatever. It's like, okay, maybe that is honor or cultivation's thing.
Oh man, Army of Darkness. What if Ash is here somewhere?
Never saw that one.
This is my boomstick. I would argue that one is the best one.
I've never seen any of the Evil Deads, actually. It's like one of those franchises I just haven't seen any of.
You can skip Evil Dead 1 because Evil Dead 2, the beginning of it, is like the whole movie of Evil Dead 1 condensed.
Oh.
So unless you just really are dying to see the first Evil Dead, which was filmed quite a bit earlier than the second one, you could just skip it.
I am a completionist, but...
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you can watch it, but you're not gonna...
Yeah, fair enough.
You're not going to get anything super great out of the first one, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah.
So we cut back to Kaladin, who is heading towards the pinnacle. I was right. That was what he called it. It takes an hour to walk there from Dalinar's camp, so these are not close. And it says, unfortunately, on his way, he passed a group of Dalinar's surgeons in a field with servants gathering knobweed sap. So I guess... some people know about that. Maybe it's just Sadeas' war camp where they keep it a secret and sell them at an outrageous cost.
I think we've established that Sadeas isn't a top bloke.
Yep. Probably doesn't encourage, honorable action among his camp people either, probably. So, and I love that Kaladin's like, you know what? I could have asked to join the surgeons when Dalinar took me in. I mean, I have the expertise. I probably could have gotten us all jobs with the surgeons. Why did I do this? Huh.
He's just like we said before, he's building to that moment where he can just say to Dalinar and Navani, it's like, oh yeah, we've got like the scientific guy on my team. And they're like, who else is on your team? Oh, well, we got the big chef who fed Sadeas shit. I'm a medic. We've got the pasturing dude. We got all kinds.
It's so true that they have all kinds, and I feel like this is something that should continually surprise Dalinar, where it's like, oh yeah, we got one of those.
Just a running gag. Dalinar's always just like, oh, I need one of these guys, and Kaladin's like, I know a guy.
And then if there's somebody they don't have, he's like, hold on, Lopin, do you have a cousin who does that?
I don't have a guy for that, but I have a guy who might have a guy.
I have a guy who knows guys. I have a guy. Let me talk to my guy.
Actually, quite a powerful little network Kaladin's got going there.
Hmm.
Plus, we don't even know what other soldiers are now like in with him as well that they're going to train up.
That's true.
Yeah, a lot of skill sets coming into play.
I mean, honestly, we don't even still know everybody from Bridge 4, I don't think, because just in this chapter, we heard about Mart and Eth who are on their way with Kaladin. I'm like, have we met Mart and Eth?
Yeah, I thought they were new.
Yeah,
And
that don't sound familiar.
And what secrets are they hiding? Because we know that there's also like an armorer among his guys who helps with the armor. So
Yep, that's right. They got a blacksmith.
So yeah, what secret skills are these guys hiding to pop out at the right moment? I think Brandon is specifically just saving some Bridge 4 people and their secrets so that when he finds he needs something later, he can be like, oh yeah, so and so does that.
Yeah, we've got this guy Jethro. He's an astronomer. All right, now you're just fucking with me.
It's like this guy's a Chol breeder in case we need that, or a Chol rustler. We met the one guy in the wagons way back that was a Chol rustler, but he didn't end up in Bridge 4.
Maybe he went up in another bridge.
Yeah, I mean, I think he could have. We don't really know.
He's probably long dead if that's the case, but it would be funny if like all of a sudden like this guy just comes around and was like, remember me? We were in the cage together. And Calvin's like, no.
I'm the guy who stole the whole herd of Chols? Come on,
Yeah,
you must remember me.
That was quite the caper. You telling me you don't remember?
Cal's like I wasn't there for your caper. We were in a box.
They call me the Chuldung Man. You don't remember this?
Oh, that's Rock.
Oh, right.
We already have one of those. Pick a different nickname.
I'm the Chol lover. I mean, breeder. I mean,
whoa.
Well, this isn't going well, but you know what I mean.
And he's like, I'm gonna go take myself to the Chasm of Honor now.
Of all the characters who could come back from, really, we need what's his name, Wacky Vaclav or whatever Dak named him.
Yeah.
Wacky Vaclav.
She'll go 300 hectares on a single tank of kerosene.
Whammy Wazzle.
Put that in H.
There's all sorts of characters just waiting out there to revisit.
Yep.
So yes, as they approach, they meet up with some of the King's Guard guarding, the entrance to the pinnacle. And Callan's like, hey, soldier. And technically this guy is like a lower rank than him, but also he's a Light Eyes. So it's like, how do you... And the guy's just like, hey, I heard you held a bridge practically by yourself against hundreds of people. How'd you do that? And this is where Moash is like, you want to find out? Step up, bro.
It's like, whoa. Calm down.
Angry young man.
Yeah. And it totally reminds me of just like one of those college like dude bros, half drunk, just looking for a fight for any reason.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've seen those guys.
And Callan's just like, hush you. And then
quiet you.
He goes, I got lucky. That's it. And the soldier's like, yeah, that makes sense.
All right. See you later. Big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.
Kaladin just kind of stares at the guy until he goes, sir, take that, Light Eyes. And once they're away from them, Moash is like, why you do that, man? Why you do me like that, bro? And he's like, because you were in the wrong. You're a soldier and you need to act like it. He's like, I'm not going to bow before the Light Eyes. Not anymore. He's like, well, you don't have to bow, but you do have to be professional. Bridge 4 is better than petty jibes and threats. And that's what gets Moash, where he's like, we're better than that. And Moash has to think about this and be like, oh, maybe he's right.
I am better than that. Yeah. I mean, I'm not better than that, but I want to be better than that, so I guess he's right.
Yeah, he's not. He's going to try, then realize, man, trying sucks.
I hate trying.
Yeah, there's an old little green guy who said, do or do not. There is no try. And I like the way he thinks. I'm just going to do not.
You gave it a try, and you failed miserably. The lesson is, never try.
Fucking beat me to it. I was just waiting. I was like, all right, as soon as I finish the Yoda Court, I'm going to bust in with Homer, and then you... I
actually had a glass with the picture of Homer saying that on it at one point. I don't know where it might have gotten to.
Nice.
And Syl's like, oh man, why does Moash look so angry? Cal's like, look, when I took over the Bridgemen, they were like caged animals who'd been beaten into submission. Now the doors are off the cages, and it's just going to take them some time to adjust. And eventually Moash comes up. He's like, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm not going to pretend I don't hate him. But I'll be civil because we have a duty. And we'll do it better than anyone expects. We're Bridge 4. It's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, dude, bro. Bridge 4. Woo!
Beer bong.
Come on, dude. Be my bridge bro.
And so Kaladin gets here. He relieves Scar and his team from duty guarding Dalinar. And then just like strolls into the chamber where the king and Dalinar are meeting or talking or whatever, and starts like directing the guards different places. It's like, Moash, you see what's that on the other side of that door? You guys watch out there. And then Dalinar's like, yeah, that's a balcony. It's 100 feet in the air. There's no other way onto it, so you don't need to worry about that. And Kaladin's like, good to know. I want 2 men out there guarding that balcony. And Dalinar's like, I just said you can't get to it from the outside. He's like, yeah. So that's why I'd try to go that way if I was trying to sneak in here. And Dalinar's just kind of amused by this, and the king's like, yes, good.
I loved that moment where Elhakar's like, oh, I like this one.
Well, yes, because Kaladin then is like, hey, are there any secret passages into this room, Your Majesty? And the king's like, well, I mean, if there were, I wouldn't tell you. And he's like, well, but if there's secret passages, then those are the first places I will suspect someone sneaking in. So, like, I kind of need to know if you want me to protect people in this room. And that's when the king's like, I like him. Why haven't you put him in charge of your guard before? And he's like, wait, is that a captain's insignia on a Dark Eyes? When did that start happening? And after that, just like walks off and does something else. And then Dalinar's like, I need you to know the king is very worried about assassins. Kaladin's like, yeah, okay, good. A healthy paranoia makes my job easier. I didn't say healthy, just paranoid. And then there's they have a thing about how he addresses Dalinar, and Dalinar's eventually like, you're an odd one, son. And Kaladin's like, the normal ones are dead in the chasms, sir. Sadeas saw to that. This guy can't not be dramatic, I swear.
He's like,
It's
don't
extremely
you tell
dramatic.
me about being weird. I'm the one that's alive.
It's always like he's the one that just takes it a bit too far. It's
Yep.
like, oh yeah, remember you've got a really dark past. Okay,
Yeah.
We
let's
saw
leave that
all
there.
of those flashbacks last time. Yep.
Yeah,
He's like, well, all the ones I called Lord betrayed me. It's like, oh, okay, cool.
Dalinar inquires into that no further. Just like,
Yeah.
okay, then.
He's like, cool,
okay, we'll go with Sir.
That
No,
sounds completely normal.
I'm just gonna back away real slow. Just let
Slowly.
you do
Yeah.
your thing. Yeah.
Slowly.
Let's not get into that.
Now, Kaladin, your network of people, do you have a therapist?
He really needs one.
Yeah.
So bad.
If anybody needs therapy, it's old Callie.
And then Dalinar asks Kaladin to stay for the big meeting. Like, guard this door from the inside, basically. Because I want you to hear what's going on. And there's a general, and the general's wife, I think, is Brightness Tishiv. And then Adolin and Renarin, they're coming. Don't let anyone else in. And then I love Kaladin's like, I got to train the guys later, because they got to understand that when a Light Eye says, don't let anyone else in, they don't literally mean that. It's a whole thing. Adolin comes in, and Kaladin's just like, spoiled rich kid. He wore a uniform like everyone else, but the buttons are engraved, and the boots are expensive hogsehide. Ugh. He's like, but he did save that woman in the market. And then Adolin is like, hey, shouldn't that guy wait outside? And I was like, no, I want him here for this. There's also a weird little note here where Syl finds a paperweight on the writing desk in this room that has a weird crab thing. It's like a piece of crystal with a weird crab thing trapped in it. One with wings. And he's like, oh, that's weird. All right.
Yeah,
It's a crab spread.
like crabs are one of many animals. Though. It's like I'm glad don't have wings in our world, so this just doesn't sound very good to me.
I mean, if you
I don't
think
need to be like-
about an insect, it has an exoskeleton. It's basically like a tiny crab.
Yeah, that's true.
Interesting.
I don't need to be, having a leisurely stroll on the beach and all of a sudden a crab flies in my face.
That's true. True.
Yeah.
I mean, what is a scorpion but an arachnid crab?
Yep. Imagine a scorpion with wings.
Yeah, that would be terrifying.
I think they found some fossilized ones down here in Australia not long back.
I am not at all shocked.
Yeah. You guys got some wild stuff down there.
Yeah.
So I found there's a quote from one of the the guys who does like illustration work for Brandon's company and for some of the books. And he talks about designing sort of the environment of Roshar, like thematically. And he says, the major mandate for the entire Rosharan environment is coral reefs above water. We leaned into it hardest in the first book, partly because we were still working out what's what, and partly because Brandon wanted to put the design theme up front. So the Luxspren and Windspren are evocative of fish and schools. The Prickletak rock buds are actually shaped like branch coral, and the leaves of the stump-weight trees are seaweed. Markle trees, which I don't remember being mentioned, have clamshell leaves. Axehounds are turtle-faced lobster dogs. Chull are giant hermit crabs. And sky eels are so moray that they've even got pharyngeal jaws. So they're like moray eels flying around in this world.
I forgot about the sky eels, yeah.
Yeah. Which, if anything, may be more horrific than flying crabs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me think of the starting area for Blood Elves in World of Warcraft. There's lots of like flying magic eels there.
I don't remember if I ever played a Blood Elf. I played a Night Elf the first time I ever played it.
Blood Elves I liked because they were one of the only horde races when they first came out that could play paladins.
Okay, back into the thingy. Adolin is like, we barely know this guy, and Dalinar's like, well, we have to trust some people, Adolin. If there's one person in this army I can guarantee is not working for Sadeas, it's that guy. Which, yeah, I mean...
Yeah, not even Adolin could fight that one.
He saved your life when Sadeas tried to kill you all, so come on.
Saved your life? No, you didn't. It's a good quality X-Men quote.
And this is where Kaladin is like, does Dalinar know something about me? He didn't see me with Stormlight. He's practically unconscious. He doesn't know, right?
So this just made me think, we spent all of book one just going, Kaladin and Dalinar are going to meet. Kaladin and Dalinar are going to meet. And so on, all the way through the book. So now it just seems like this whole book is going to be, Kaladin's going to reveal to Dalinar that he will become a Radiant. That he's a Radiant, so he can help Dalinar reform them, right? All the way through the book.
Not until the very end does he find out. That would be hilarious, actually.
Yeah.
And so
he's like, by the way, boss, that thing you're trying to do, yeah, I can bind surges or whatever. I'm one of those guys.
I'm one of those guys you're looking for. I've been here the whole time.
Yeah.
My bad.
He says it while standing on a wall.
Yeah.
Dalinar comes around the corner and Kaladin's standing there horizontal like, and like, hey boss.
Oh,
what
awkward.
the fuck?
The Taylor Swift music's playing in the background. Been here all along, so why can't you see?
Wow. So the meeting starts, and they're discussing the proclamation and how everybody hates it, as they knew that they would. And apparently Dalinar had originally planned to also proclaim that they must follow the codes or face seizure of assets. And Dalinar's like, that's still going to come. Maybe we should have done it all at once. Well, when you've got an arrow stuck in you, it's sometimes best to just yank it out in one pull. And Kaladin's over here like, no, that's a terrible idea.
It's like, no, you're not thinking, but I probably shouldn't correct his metaphor. It's fine.
Yeah, right. And the king's like, oh man, do you have to say stuff like that? Jeez. And as they have the discussion, Kaladin's like, man, I expected the king to be less whiny to Syl. And so Adolin's like, we need to form our own coalition because Sadeas is going to gather a coalition and we have to counter him. And Brightness Teshav is like, divide the kingdom in two? How would starting a civil war help the throne, especially one that we probably won't win? And Dalinar's like, no, we're gonna do this. I'm determined to see that we turn Alethkar into a real thing. And Kaladin's over here like, man, he's just like, Dalinar acts like he's the king and everyone else just goes along with it. Is he like is the king just like a puppet? This is kind of messed up. Is it like Amaram pretending to be cool while secretly like taking whatever power he could get? And then there's a moment where it's like Dalinar talking about how he has to treat the high princes like children. You got to punish new recruits who aren't willing to obey orders. And the king's like, I think you'll have a hard time spanking obedience into the high princes, uncle. The king said dryly. For some reason, he absently rubbed at his chest.
I wonder why.
And that's when Kaladin decides to get involved in the conversation. He's like, you should disarm them. And everyone's like, excuse me? Yeah, I mean, sorry, but if your squad is giving you trouble, you split it up or you take away their weapons so that they're easier to control. And Dalinar's like, well, we can't literally take their stuff away because the way our system works is the soldiers swear allegiance to their light eyes, not to the king. So only the high princes are sworn to the king. So any control over their soldiers has to go through the high princes, basically. But what you said about disarming them is actually what we have in mind to some extent. It's time to take the lock off of Adolin's scabbard, as he puts it. They want Adolin to start dueling again. And Adolin's like, oh, hell yeah. I am so here for this plan. And the king's like, so we're going to try to humiliate them? Well, no, it's more about we're going to bet our shards against their shards, and when Adolin beats them, we will take all their shards. Because that's a hell of a plan.
Yeah. Adolin goes back to his room. Dear diary, Daddy finally did it. He let me off my leash. It's going to be sick, bro.
And there's a moment where Dalinar's like, yeah, we may have to shame them into fights. That'd be easier if somebody could track down Wit. Like, we need his insult power here.
Never underestimate the power of a good insult.
And so that's part of the plan, is we're going to have Adolin start taking shards from other people so that House Colin controls the shards. But at the same time, they're going to work politically to try to unite the other high princes and get them to see what the advantage of really unifying the country. And then the king points out that Sadeas and the other high princes are going to try to hurt us, but the way that they think, they're not going to go straight at us. They're going to go for the people that we care about. Are you going to put your sons at risk? Or my mother? And he's like, yeah, you're right. I hadn't thought of that. And then he drops the bomb. Also, I'm going to refound the Knights Radiant. Just FYI. And no one likes this statement.
He's like, it's on my to-do list, by the way. And I'm like, wait, no, that doesn't sound good.
You're going to try to rebuild a sect of traitors who gave us over to the Voidbringers? This is bad. And he's like, no, I have to do this thing. And Elhokar's like, why? He's like, it's just what I have to do. What do you want me to tell you? He can't say, like, the voice in my dreams told me to, but he doesn't have any other answer for it. And that's when Kaladin's still over here like, oh my gosh, he's talking about, does he know about my powers? Oh no. And the meeting breaks up, and Dalinar comes over to talk to Kaladin. He's like, you know what? Elhokar's right. They're going to try to hurt my family. That's how they think. I'm going to need guard details on Navani and my sons at all times, your best men. And Kaladin's like, look, there's only like 24 guys in Bridge 4. Those are my best men. Some of those guys won't even fight, honestly. I can't keep guard details running on all of you all day. And so Dalinar's like, look, you know what? Actually, here's what we do. I need you to train up your men. And the problem is I need more men on the battlefield. And I told you I'm not going to take your guys and put them on the battlefield. But I have 250 soldiers in the King's Guard, including the last of my remaining battle-ready officers. So I'm going to need them. And Cal's like, oh, crap. You want me in charge of guarding the king also? And Dalinar's like, yes, that is where we're going to be headed here.
It's like, yes, if you refuse to fight, I'm going to need you to guard people.
Yeah. And he's like, over the next few weeks, I'm going to merge you guys and the King's Guard into one group. You'll be in charge. And honestly, they can help you get the feel for like guarding people because they've been doing this for a while. So it's a win-win. Can you do this, soldier? And Kaladin's like, yes. Though a part of him was panicking. Yes, I can. But also, I've got to train up these 1,000 men. How about we put them on some of these bandit patrols outside the camp to get them feeling like, you know, a real force? That'll put them in a situation where they probably don't need to fight because there's no bandits that are going to attack like a couple hundred men, armed men at that, but it'll help them train up. And that'll give you can bring those patrolling men back in and you'll have some soldiers ready to fight. And I was like, yes, okay, this is a good plan. Let's do this thing. And he's thinking the chapter ends with Kaladin thinking that he wants to rebuild the Knights Radiant, but that's not something that he can just do because he wants to, unless he has help from a Knight Radiant.
Just another one in the running gag of like, oh yeah, in my network of people, I've got a Radiant. What?
Yeah, I mean, you never asked. Like, come on.
I know a guy.
Yes, I know a guy.
Of course I know him. He's me.
So, chapter 6, Terrible Destruction. We begin with what Dak was referencing earlier, the epigraph. We had never considered that there might be Parshendi spies hidden among our slaves. This is something else I should have seen. I mean, we know the Parshendi they fight out in the fields look pretty different from Parshmen. They've got like armor that grows out of their bodies and such, but that doesn't mean those are the only guys around, I guess.
Yeah, like that could just, if they've got like a different system, like, you got the worker class and the warrior class or whatever. Probably not the best terms, but the Parchment could just be the worker bees.
That's true.
Crabs?
You're reminding me of Babylon 5, where the Minbari society is divided into the worker caste, the warrior caste, and the religious caste.
Yep, that works. I was thinking Planet of the Apes.
Mm.
Like the original one was like I think the orangutans were like the ones in charge. The gorillas were the soldiers, and the chimpanzees were like the scientists.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So we cut back to Shallan, who is sitting on a box, working on stuff. And she's talking to the spren that she has named Pattern. As we talked about earlier, she's very good at naming. She's very creative. Everyone is impressed. And they're talking about food, Pattern says. And Shallan's like, yeah, we eat it. He says, you eat, so you make it into you? And she's like, I mean, this was a weird way of saying that shit, but yeah. That is essentially the process. And
evil.
He's outraged. Terrible destruction. Which, hey, there's the chapter title, Terrible Destruction. Who knew that it would be that? And she's like, no, this is how we survive. Everything needs to eat. And he's like, no, terrible destruction to eat. We also find out that in this section that before now she's just seen him as a pattern moving like on the surface of things or in the surface of things. Here he can lift himself off of the surface and form a ball of swirling darkness with the lines of the pattern twisting away inside. So that's kind of a level up that somebody was talking about earlier, where it's like Syl could look human. He can look like a ball of darkness with lines inside. It's not creepy or anything. And so we find out that she's been working with him and making notes, just like Yasna told her. But it's strange because like simple things seem difficult for him, but he actually grasps like complex things easily. Abstractions come to him easily. He asked me, why you, why B? And she said, to find the truth. And he was like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. And so they talk about remembering. He's like, why are you writing this stuff? And she says, to remember. And he's like, remember. And she's like, yeah, it means, how do I explain this? Okay. And she tries to explain it. And he's like, I cannot remember. And she says, oh, well, what is the first thing you do remember? Where were you? And he says, first, with you. On the ship? No. Green. Food. Food not eaten. She's like, plants? Yes, many plants. And then he vibrates, and she feels like she can almost see on the deck, no, her father's gardens? Pattern on the ground, drawn in the dust. And he says, remember. And she says no, or she thinks no. And the image vanishes. And then we get the return of Yalb, our best buddy Yalb. And he's like, yeah, tell the new kid about what happened in Kharbranth. And this new guy is an enormous guy, at least 5 years older than Yalb. But they'd taken on some new people so they wouldn't be undermanned during the last leg to New Natananon. And I love Yalb's expressions. He's like, you look like you just swallowed a turtle. And not just the head either. He's like, in Kharbranth, did we or did we not meet the king? And she's like, I met the king. I was in your retinue. You were waiting outside. And he's like, yeah, that doesn't matter. I was your footman. It totally counts. And then after he sends the new kid away to wash the dishes, to build character and stuff, he's like, that fellow is as done as two spheres made of mud. I worry about him. Someone's going to take advantage of him. And then he's like, hey, how were you doing that thing before? With the colors? You made the deck like green. I swear I saw it. Has to do with that strange spren, huh? And she's like, yeah, it's a scholarly matter. He's like, yeah, that's what I figured. Bye now.
Oh, Yalb. Simple Yalb.
But whatever was going on was real enough for somebody else to see it also, I think is the main takeaway there. And then Pattern is like, lies from the Yalb. And he's like, yeah. She's like, yeah, Yalb's good at lies. And Pattern, it says, Pattern hummed softly. He seemed pleased. And she's like, you like lies? He's like, good lies. That lie, good lie. I mean, Yasna did tell us that they might be called lie spren. That's just not a name that they like, so it makes sense. And she heads back to her room, she starts thinking about how there seem to be different like levels of spren, because there's other spren that talk. Wind spren and river spren would mimic people and make playful comments. And we heard early on with Syl that sometimes wind spren will like repeat stuff to you. That's what he thought Syl was doing at first until she said his name, and he was like, wait, what the? And so those seem to be a step up from ordinary spren because they can talk. So is there like even another level beyond that? Is Pattern like the next level up in intelligence?
Super spren.
And she's reading in this book, the Night Watcher is obviously one of these. The records of conversations with her, and she's definitely female, are numerous and credible. So the Night Watcher's out there, and she's a smart spren, whatever that means. Well, we found out in the previous book that she like makes deals with you, so she has some sort of power even beyond like what we've seen.
Did we know previously that she was a spren?
I don't know that we did.
I don't think so.
We knew that she was a thing that was out there, and this may be the first time we've heard them call her a spren.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're correct in thinking she's a spren, but that's how they're identifying her here. We've seen too much of this magic in all the way back to Mistborn, where it's like they think they know how everything works, but they usually don't. So
it turns out the Night Watcher was just another shard hiding on this planet from Odium and the rest.
That could be.
Exchange. That's a good name for a shard.
Exchange. The deal making shard. It's like the used car salesman of shards.
Fry, you idiot. I think he wants to make some kind of deal with the devil with you.
One word. Thundercoo Falconbird. So she's communicated to her brothers, and they love the idea of fixing the Soulcaster and returning it. They think now that there's a plan, they can hold out a little longer. So everything's coming up Millhouse. She's looking for some stormlight because her spheres keep getting drained. Why is that? Apparently Yasna hasn't explained that bit to her yet. She's like, oh, Yasna will have some spheres for me. Let me head over there. And she finds Yasna looking, it says, her eyes haunted, her expression haggard. And she's like, oh, geez, I've never seen Yasna like out of sorts like this. And Shallan says, I need spheres. Those in my pouch went done. She's like, have you been soul casting? What? No. Then it must be the second ability. Come in. What did you do? It involves light, I assume. And she says, I seem to make plants appear. Well, just the color, really. And Yasna's like, yes, this makes sense. She's not going to give us much more information about it, but she starts to go into the basics of this stuff. 10 essences, 10 surges, 10 orders. But what does it mean that the Spren have finally decided to return the oaths to us? And so at first Yasna thought that she was an anomaly. She was the only one. But if surge binders are coming back in large numbers, this is getting serious. And Shallan's like, I don't understand. And Yasna's like, really, I don't really either. But keep spheres with you so your surge binding has the opportunity to manifest. And Shallan's like, I mean, can you teach me? And Yasna's like, well, I don't know. On this diagram, one of the surges is known as illumination, the mastery of light. So that seems to be what you have. Go ahead, give it a shot. Soul casting is more dangerous, so let's focus on the other one for now. And they get into the thing where Shallan's like, look, I can tell how upset and worried you are. Like, take me in, like, let me help. Tell me what's wrong. And Yasna's trying to be like, no, I'm fine. But eventually she kind of drags out of her, just all of this is so much. And it seems like the desolation, like in the past, the desolation, the coming of the Voidbringers was marked by the return of the heralds to prepare mankind. They would train knights, but I don't know what's going on right now. You proving to be a surge binder does not comfort me. It smacks too much of what happened before. But back then they had teachers to train them and generations of tradition. We don't have any of that. And so if this is indicative of the desolation returning, the Parshendi turning against us as the Voidbringers, we're not in a good position. And Shallan says, we have to warn others. And Yaz is like, what, you don't think I've tried? I've written to scholars and kings all over the place, and most just dismiss me as paranoid. And it turns out that Shallan's like, oh, this is about Urithiru, that city that you're seeking. There's supposed to be something hidden about the city on the Shattered Plains. Not the city itself, but the city was from before the hierarchy, so there might still be information there that hasn't been like ruined by the church, is essentially the idea.
And maybe I missed it, or maybe it hasn't been explained, but what is the city supposed to like tell them? Is it just going to be just because she thinks if it still exists, there could be more information there? Like, I don't really understand why the need to go there.
Yeah, that seems to be her idea. Is in the last section we kind of learned about like all of their historical records were rewritten by the church to support their view of how the way they say things happened. And so a lot of it is unreliable, especially in regards to the Knights Radiant, because the church didn't like them. So they don't have much historical record to explain how the Knights Radiant did whatever they did. But this city was home to the Knights Radiant. It was their base, and it disappeared before the hierarchy, before the church started changing histories. So unchanged information might be there that could help, is her thought.
Okay.
And so they're going to try to convince the Alethi when they reach the Shattered Plains to get rid of the Parshmen, but Yasna is not hopeful about that. Our society has become far too reliant upon them. Shallan's like, well, we'll do it. We'll find Urithiru. We'll convince everyone to listen. And Yaz is just like, the optimism of youth. Okay, well, among the Knights Radiant, there was an order known as the Light Weavers. I know precious little about them, but of all the sources I've read, this one has the most information. And she gives Shallan this book called Words of Radiance and says, go, read. And then she's like, I'll sleep. Stop trying to mother me. I don't even let Navani do that. And Shallan's like, okay. And then Shallan goes back to her room, starts trying to read, but falls asleep. She's like, maybe I can dig back into my studies tomorrow, refreshed. And the final line of the chapter, she awoke to screams, shouts, and smoke. And that's the end. Smoke. So fire on a ship, not a good thing, generally speaking. Hopefully that's not too serious. So those were our 2 chapters. Let's move into predicaments. What do we think is coming up next? And I will give you guys the names of our next chapters. Give me a second to pull that up, so you can try and predict. We are reading 5 chapters for next time, so a bunch of names here. They are 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The chapters for next time, there's Chapter 7 is Open Flame, and Chapter 8 seems to have 2 names. It's called Knives in the Back, but also Soldiers on the Field, which that's a first for us. Chapter 9 is Walking the Grave. Chapter 10 is Red Carpet Once White. And then Chapter 11 is An Illusion of Perception, which brings us almost to the first set of interludes. I think there's 12 chapters in this first part of the book, so we're going to almost hit the end of part 1 with these. So predicaments. Where are we going? What's going to happen? If you can even remember all those names I just said, you can use them to help you.
Yeah, okay. I mean, open flame, and given that we're finishing with Shallan wakes up to flames, I'm going to guess that boat's on fire. How the boat's on fire, don't know. Maybe Patton's a little fire starter.
Oh, that would be horrible.
Yeah, look, the boat's on fire. There's actually no good way to do that.
That's
right. I made this for you.
Pattern tells me to burn things.
Oh, God.
Yeah, a bit creepy, but sure. Why the boat's on fire? Don't know. Maybe this mystery guy was in the kitchen and trying to do a little extra and went a little too far cooking something. I don't know. He's a spy, an assassin, trying to get to Yasna. Yeah, I don't know why or how the boat's on fire, but that's probably what I'm predicting there. Really, it's really, really out there, I know. Knives in the back and soldiers in the field. Could be in relation to then sort of Kaladin taking over the Kingsguard, merging that in. Maybe something doesn't go quite as planned, and some of his soldiers do actually end up back on the field. Yeah, maybe if they're guarding Adolin, for example, and Adolin goes into one of the assaults on the plains, they'd have to go with him because they're guarding him. I don't know if that would work that way or not, but could be. I feel like it's probably too early for Dalinar to completely betray Kaladin. I don't think he would do that deliberately, but perhaps circumstances thrown a certain way might not help that. I don't know. Walking the grave. No idea. Red carpet once white. No, got nothing. An illusion of perception. Got nothing.
Oh, I will
Little
say.
To go off yet.
Random note here. Red carpet once white is, I think, the shortest chapter in the entire book. So, not that I think that will help you with your predicaments any, but it's an interesting note.
Red carpet once white. I mean, it probably suggests a whole bunch of bloodshed, right? Like, there's a lot of knives in the backs and walking graves, and I think something pretty bad's going to happen. Yeah, but what that looks like, I don't know. Maybe someone does actually make an assassination attempt on the king, or there's a lot of stuff. People are coming for Dalinar. What's his name? Seth is going to be coming for Dalinar. People are writing threats on his walls. Sadis is pretty mad, along with the other high princes. Like, something's going to happen. Don't really know what though. Yeah, I don't have a lot though. Realistically, nothing new that we haven't already talked about anyway. Sort of got hopes for where everyone ends up and what happens, but in terms of predicting that, I don't have anything new to go off this week.
No, fair. We get information this week, but not a lot big happening. I guess maybe the end of that chapter where it's like, oh no, they're screaming and smoke. That may be the biggest thing that could give you something to predict. And I mean, as you pointed out, the direction that you can go with that prediction is pretty obvious.
Yeah, I mean, you could also go the other way. Maybe she wakes up to a whole bunch of fire in the cognitive realm or something.
Oh.
So yes, there's screaming and fire, but maybe it's not as straightforward as what we think. I don't know, but I feel like it would be likely that the ship is on fire. Also, that would be really bad. That would be really bad for their journey. And there's no port, there's nowhere for them to stop. If someone was really trying to get to Yasna, we've already had, Kabsal, the man with the jam plan, coming to figure things out with, how to get rid of Yasna. It wouldn't surprise me if there was another attempt, and we're better to do that in a place she couldn't run. She's already tired, exhausted, and scared of what's coming. If someone was really hell bent on making an attempt on her life, getting her out to sea and in a situation where she doesn't feel unsafe necessarily, but the people around her aren't strangers, and all of a sudden you got this new guy in there. I don't know, he's a bit suspect. Why introduce him to just be like, yeah, Yalb's telling a lie? Maybe Patton's onto something. Maybe he is just overextending the truth and lying about things underneath his words. He's not being honest. So, which would be disappointing because I kind of liked Yalb.
I mean, if there's somebody who could probably spot some lies, it would be the lie spren guy, right? So.
Yeah, and he can't communicate well enough yet. So Shallan's like, well, he's not really lying about that. It's a good lie. Oh, yeah, because he's covering up something a lot bigger. That would, yeah, okay. I'm a little sus of that now.
Yeah, Pattern probably can't articulate his thoughts very well yet, so he could be trying to tell us more than we realize. That's a good point. And just despite his name not being all that great.
Oh, look, some people are named things. We've been watching How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah.
You go through his name's Hiccup. It's not the most Viking of names, but he proves his worth. Little Patton could probably do worse on the name front.
You know what? You're not wrong. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Predictions. Yeah, so I think I agree. I think Open Flame is probably going to be Shallan and Yasna. the boat was on fire and it wasn't my fault. There we go.
I like that. Okay.
I don't know why the boat would be on fire. I think it would have something to do with Patton, but I don't know. Yeah, something went wrong. Knives in the back, soldiers in the field. Yep, that's got to be a Kaladin thing. The knives in the back makes me think that the ally, however you pronounce her name, her spies, maybe they start acting a bit sooner than normal, or maybe one of the other Bright Lords gets a bit more proactive, like maybe Sadius and the ally are just waiting for the right moment, and someone like who's one of the other Aladar, that's one of them. He's just like, oh fuck this, and so he kicks off the conflict to start with. So we see, he betrays the king, and we see people like a skirmish with some of his people, and Kaladin has to command it. And like, oh good, we're off to a flying start. And I think walking the grave could again be Kaladin, or Dalinar, like walking through the aftermath of all that, and just like, okay, this is where that's led us. We got to move forward. Red carpet once white. I think that's, for some reason, I imagine royalty involved in that. So maybe that'll involve Elhokar. So I think Dalinar's probably our candidate for that one. Maybe Dalinar reporting, all right, yep, the people opposed to us have made their first move. This is what we got, and with red carpet once white, it's like, all right, so the Alethi camp is now soaked in blood. Here we go. I got no idea what an illusion of perception means. I got nothing for that one.
Okay.
That's the chapters. As far as what the other general predictions I've got, the scene with Sadius and Oathbringer, I remember that Oathbringer is the name of the third book. Mm-hmm. So long-term prediction, I think someone, whether it's this book or next book, is going to have to take that sword back from him. The obvious candidates would be Kaladin, Dalinar, or Adolin. Like, you could make the argument, they've talked about this time, that Adolin could fight Sadius in a duel for it. But I really like, I have nothing to base this on whatsoever, but I just want to see it be either Renarin or Yasna who do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Renarin because he's the overlooked one, like no one thinks much of him. Sadius definitely doesn't think much of him, so it'd be nice to see Renarin be the one to take him down. Or Yasna it'd just be cool. Like, she comes back into the camp and goes, well, I need to unfuck this whole situation, turns Sadius into glass and just takes the sword back. Like,
yeah.
Yasna with a sword would be, one, it'd be really cool to see, but also you could just imagine like all the Vorin priests just going like, what the fuck? Why does she have that? And like that tickles me.
You're not wrong. Yes, that would be hilarious. I'm sitting here wondering like what their code would make of it if like because she couldn't like challenge him to a duel probably. So she just walks in, turns him into glass, and takes his sword. How do people react to that? Like, are they like, oh, she won it fair and square, or are they like, she's a witch, burn her? Like, where on this continuum do we end up?
I don't know, but I guess it depends where in the situation this goes down. Like if it's already devolved into open war and Sadius is openly against them, I know that's Sadius is actively trying not to do that. But if it does eventually come down to that, and Yasmin is like, all right, I'm fucking sick of this, and just kicks in his door. Like if it's a point of open war, people are just like, well, he's dead. We're not really going to complain about that.
Yep. All's fair in war.
Yep.
Yeah, that would make sense. Okay, I like that. I also just really like the picture of Yasna getting this shard blade, and everyone is like, what? You can't do that. And she's like, you want to step up and try to tell me that? After I turned this guy to crystal just now? And I'm like, no, I'm good.
just like like the Vorin priest is just like, you can't have that. And Yas is like, come and get it off me then.
Yeah, she doesn't give a shit what they think anyway, the priesthood, so it's all good.
Yeah. Spartans, throw down your spears. Persians, come and get them. And like the one other prediction I did have, and I only sort of came up with it as we've been recording, but I just imagined that like at some point they're really leaning heavily on the Parshmen are going to rise up, and like that's going to cause a whole mess of problems at some point. So I just think that I would love it for there'll be a moment when Kaladin is just in with his men. Like, he's got all of Bridge 4, and he yells out an order for them to do something, and then out of nowhere, to the shock of everyone, Shen just like speaks up. Maybe he just yells no, like in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and everyone just goes, "Oh fuck!" And that's when you know shit's serious.
He's like, no, I don't think I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Rise might be the weakest of the Planet of the Apes trilogy, but that moment was phenomenal.
Rise of the Parshendi of the Apes. Okay, I'm there.
Let's take a look at these chapters again. So you said the fire ones first, or flame, or whatever. I mean, yeah, I feel like
flame, yes.
Open flame, yeah. I feel like that has to be a reference to our most previous chapter when she's like, I wake up and smell smoke and fire. Now, I kind of liked my original predicament, I'll say here in a minute, but I kind of like Jamie's idea that it's actually like her in the cognitive realm, or she could even be like having a dream of something that happened in the past, and like that's that she's waking up, quote unquote, but she's not actually awake. That would be kind of cool if it wasn't like actually happening, but I do think so. I do think that the ship is actually on fire. I agree that it seemed weird that this guy was introduced by Yalb randomly, and I think this guy is from the king from the city they just left, because we know that guy's bad now. So like he if he knows about what's going on with Dalinar, he probably knows what's going on with them too. That they're also trying to like bring back surge binding and radiance and stuff like that. So he may have sent this person onto the boat to take care of Yasna.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
And so my predicament is that is actually what's going to happen. Either Yasna's going to die in this fire, or it's going to be so bad that the ship is destroyed and Yasna and Shallan are separated, because things have been going really well for Shallan. She's even said that in her head. Like, man, things are going really good for me right now. And we all know when Brandon's character is like, man, things are going good, that's when things start not going so good for them. So I think that's going to kind of be the conflict here. Either Yasna's going to die in this fire, or we're going to think she's dead, or they're going to be separated. And basically, Shallan will not make it to the Shattered Plains with Yasna, or she won't make it to the Shattered Plains at all. And the kind of like stuff we've been leading to and hoping would happen does not happen. They don't meet up with Adolin. She doesn't meet her fiance or whatever. She may be the one lost at sea, and Yasna makes it to the Shattered Plain. Is like, yeah, Shallan was promising, but she's gone now. And then Shallan's separated from the main storyline, or other way around. Yasna's separated from the main storyline. That's my predicament for this thing that could be happening in this next chapter, possibly. And then the chapter after that was the one with the two titles, right? Yeah, knives in the back, soldiers in the field. So to me, the most recent thing that was reiterated was like, I'm not going to make your soldiers fight in battle, right? It literally says soldiers on the field. So maybe for some reason Dalinar has to go back on that promise he just made or reiterated. Either lack of men or something bad happens and they've got to fight. Like everybody has to fight. And so it feels like a knife in the back. Maybe a knives in the back is like what I can't remember if it was Jamie or Dak who was talking about, like the spies from Sadeas's wife, that could be causing some issues. But yeah, there's going to be something maybe that causes Kaladin to have his men fight, and Dalinar will be upset that he had to break his promise, but he had to break his promise. And then after that we had, what was it? Something illusion?
After that is Walking the Grave.
Walking the Grave. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. That's a weird one. And then after that, it was something illusion.
After that is Red Carpet Once White.
Red Carpet Once White. Just because, I mean, the thought would be like red carpet means blood. It was once white, once a white carpet. But we know that Shallan can, I guess, make green or something. So maybe this is a Shallan chapter because it's talking about colors changing. So maybe it has something to do with like her changing the color of something. I don't know. That just seems to vibe with what she's done in the past. So maybe that's what that's about. And then what was the last one? Illusion? Something illusion. I keep thinking illusion.
The last one is An Illusion of Perception.
An Illusion of Perception. Again, that one's pretty vague in its titling. I feel like that might be a line somebody says. It sounds like a line maybe that like Yasna or Shallan would say. So maybe one of them are saying it. It's like the illusion of perception. It's like what you perceive, it may not actually be like what's actually in existence. It's an illusion. And so that sounds like a Shallan or Yasna thing as well. Overall, where do I think we're going? I do think that if I'm right about them getting separated in this next chapter by the fire, that Shallan is going to go on a very different adventure from the one we've been expecting so far in the book, and that things are going to not go super great for her. She's going to hold on to this Words of Radiance book, which, you know, is the title of the book, and so that's maybe going to teach her how to wieldeth her power, even if Yasna's not around to help her figure it out. That's going to be kind of like the direction that we go in for the rest of the book, is her figuring out her powers. And I think I've mentioned several times the past Kaladin figuring out his powers. I feel like those are going to be the two main focuses for these two characters, is like learning how to use their surges or whatever.
It really does seem like that is an important thing for both of them at this point. Is Kaladin, I don't know if I'd say he's avoiding it, but he definitely wasn't super into the idea of when Sigil's like, come on, we need to go and, you know, figure out how your powers work. But it's like, this is something you need.
Yeah.
And Shallan, on the other hand, is 100% on board with. She's the scientist or the researcher. She's like, I want to figure out how this stuff. Yasna has to be like, let's not do soul casting. Soul casting is dangerous. Let's try something else.
Yeah, I think it's like, and he may have even mentioned that in the book, but it's like it's one more thing they can take away from him. He feels like if he uses his power, like him being a warrior and good with the spear, they can't take that from him. But if he's got something they want, which is this power, they're going to find a way to take advantage of him, aka take it from him. And I feel like maybe that's his hesitation. But you're right, like he needs it. Like he's got to use it, and he's got to figure out how far he can go with it, or it's not going to be of real use to him when things get like really hairy, I feel like. So he's got to figure out how he can kind of like cope with using this power, because otherwise he's not gonna be able to protect Dalinar when it counts, especially if he's going to be going up against Seth. He's not going to be able to protect his men. Like, he's going to have to figure this out.
Yeah. And basically, there's no upside to not figuring out what you can do.
Right.
So it does seem like, despite how hesitant he kind of seems to be, he really needs to. That's like the next important step for him. I agree with you. But I have to say that my favorite bit that you brought out was, it's like Shallan feels things are going well, which means that it can't be allowed to go well for much longer.
It's like the actualization of what Kaladin has been saying. She's like, why aren't you smiling and laughing, Kaladin? He's like, because it's gonna get worse. Like, something's gonna happen.
Yeah, that's my question. So does that mean that things will be okay for Kaladin? Because he is like, oh no, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Whereas Shallan is like, yay, things are good.
No, one has just had the experience of realism of life and how things can go really bad really fast, and the other one hasn't.
Okay.
You know, I feel like Kaladin's like the smart reader of a book. They know that the whole point of the book is there's got to be some kind of conflict, or else what is the point of reading the book if everything's just happy the whole time, right? So like Kaladin is that character. He knows, he's almost breaking the fourth wall. He knows shit's gonna go down. He's like, something's gonna happen. So it's not like nothing can happen. Then what would we be doing here? And
Fair.
So I think like he's kind of the audience portal into the book, of like the brain of the audience member reading the book. It's like, yeah, something's gonna happen. Something bad's gonna happen. And Shallan's like the character that's fully in the book and is like, she's fleshed out, but at the same time, like, she's like, anything could happen, adventure. And then when things go wrong, she's like, how did things go so wrong? But like at the same time, it's like, dude, come on, it's a book. Things are gonna go wrong before they go right.
Fair. If they ever go right, jeez.
Well, I mean, things started to go a little bit right at the end of the book last time.
That's true. They took a good turn, which we're now saying was actually a bad sign, because that just means things are going to be bad.
Right. Well, you know, you don't want to end every book on a down note. You can't be Empire every time.
Oh yeah, you can't be too Empire. That's true.
Yeah, nobody likes that if you're Empire the whole time, every book.
And it's just depressing.
Yeah. And you're just like, oh man, these characters ever gonna get out of this?
Yeah, it's like every ending is shit, and it's like, well, I'm just not going to keep going because I'm tired of just everything ending on shit.
It was like those Goosebumps pick your own adventure books. Like almost every ending was like, you died.
That's
right. Yeah, the choose your own adventure books. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it's
Dark
like
Souls before there was Dark Souls.
It is. Yes, exactly.
It's like, I'm sorry, the killer doll put you in a trash compactor. You're dead. It's like, oh.
Very, very specific call out.
I mean, I don't know if that's actually an ending. I just made that up, but there was a killer doll book.
It was. I think you're mixing up because it wasn't Goosebumps Choose Your Own Adventure. Those were two different things.
No, they had a Goosebumps Choose Your Own Adventure.
Really?
Yeah, they did. They definitely did.
Okay.
In fact, they even had because the Goosebumps books, every so often they'd have like a sequel to an earlier Goosebumps book.
Yep.
I remember the Choose Your Own Adventure books even did that, because there was one. It was like one of them was like going to this crazy nightmare carnival, and then one of the later Choose Your Own Adventure books was you going back to the same carnival somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the one with the dummy was another one that had a sequel because it was so popular.
Yeah. There was a Choose Your Own Adventure Bear Grylls show. You guys watch that?
No.
No.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. You can probably still find it. It was like
weird.
It's Bear Grylls. He's going into the wilderness, and you get to choose. He'll like come to a thing. He's like, should I take this rope down, or should I try to find another way down this ravine? And then you have to tell him what to do. And then depending on what you choose, something good might happen to Bear, or something really bad might happen to Bear.
Yeah, Netflix dabbled for a little bit in like the interactive. Like I remember like Bandersnatch was the Black Mirror thing was. Like the first one
yeah,
that was big that I heard.
Yeah, and they also have a trivia game.
Yeah, the Trivia Quest. I used to play Trivia Quest on my phone, and then it popped up on Netflix. Yeah.
Huh.
And I feel like they did. I feel like they did more interactive. Like I want to say there was like a Transformers or a Carmen Sandiego or something that was.
Sure, there were like more kid based ones. Yeah, Bear Grylls one was actually kind of interesting.
They actually put Minecraft story mode on there at one point. I don't think it is anymore, but it was all the gameplay is gone except for the picking choices. But that was kind of cool. All right, well now that we've gone off topic that much, let's move into what we have next. We don't have any new reviews or patrons this week, but we got a couple emails, so we will touch on those. The first one is from Rory, who we've heard from once or twice recently. Still catching up with us. This one is titled Butler Who? And it says, hey, Sanderlanche crew. Hope I'm not annoying with all my catch-up emails. I'm now partway through listening to The Alloy of Law. My thoughts up until now were mostly, Wax has a butler? Since when? Then Dak, in the current episode, opens by saying he blew himself up whilst trying to kill the trio. So I guess that clears that up. Anyways, still loving it and finding it funny how Jamie thinks Marasai is the secret villain of the book. Wasn't to the time of Ness. Cool.
I've forgotten that.
Marasai's the best, except for maybe Steris.
They're both great. They don't have to compete. They can both be great.
That's fair. Yep.
Yeah, they're sisters. It's all good.
Yeah. I had forgotten about that predicament. We're just some you nail and some you don't,
That's how throwing darts at the board works, which is what we're doing here. Good times. Good predicaments. We need to, at some point, maybe one of the times when like two people can't make it or something, I need to have a prepared like retrospective on our most hilarious predicaments, either good or right or wrong.
You know how you get those? You ask the people in the Discord to provide, what was your favorite funny prediction? Then you've got your list already laid out for you.
Oh man, that's a much better idea. As I said that, I was sitting here thinking, man, that means I have to go back and listen through all of our stuff. I like your idea way better than mine.
We have fans. The fans could help you do the work. They enjoy doing
work
that.
For you. Yep. I had a friend of mine. He started listening to the podcast not too long ago, and he was like, he's already read through the books, but so he's like just reading through or listening to podcasts because I told him we do one about the books, and he was like, just got to the part where you think maybe there's a secret Chandra as another Chandra. Hey Joe, did you how'd you figure that one out? I was like, yeah. I was like, I took a lot of hits for that one because like I really didn't read ahead, but like I got it right. So people were like, he cheated. I'm like, no, I didn't. I promise. I took a guess and it was right.
Took a guess and stood by it despite all of the like comments and belittling from somebody else who will remain nameless.
I'm sure it was Data. If there's anybody who knows how to belittle you, it's your own brother.
Yep.
We've all been there.
Sure.
So that was from Rory. Thank you, Rory. I have actually enjoyed your catching up emails as you reacting as you're going through them. It's fun. The next one is from Sir Hambino from the Discord. The title is Shocking Stormlight Sanderlanche Surprises. Hey gang, currently listening to episode 168 of the podcast, which is episode 3 of The Way of Kings. I've just finished The Way of Kings a couple days ago, and I'm still reeling after all the crazy stuff at the end of the book. The Parshmen are Voidbringers? I have tons of questions, but I figure most will be revealed in the coming weeks as I listen to the podcast and Data links stuff together for us. So one question I can ask from so far in the past is, what do you think is the prettiest cover art of all the stuff we've read? I just got a glance at the second book, Words of Radiance, and was stunned at how beautiful the cover was. Also, the art in the interior of the cover. I have the Tor US hardback edition for reference. Thank you guys for everything you do. See you in the future. From Sir Hambino. So we've got different sources for this, because mostly the Aussies have the UK versions, and then Joe and I are reading digital versions. So
and I try not to look at the cover too much because I don't want to get like a weird impression about the book before I read it. So I really don't look at it.
Interesting.
I'm just gonna throw it out there as I think this might be a cop out, but I think the Secret Projects and their leather bounds is probably my favorite cover arts. I think probably. Maybe, just pulling them out now, maybe Yumi and the Nightmare Painter.
Yumi and the Nightmare Painter is a good one.
Now that you say that, those are the ones I've probably looked at the most because I actually have hard copies of those, and they are nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really remember them all when they came in, but I remember, was it Tress of the Emerald Sea when that came in, and I was like, that is stunning. That is just a beautiful cover.
Yeah.
Those are, yes, the special editions from the Kickstarter are pretty much all very nice. I don't love the Frugal Wizard one as much, but the rest I think all look very cool. I will show you guys the Tor hardback cover for this book that Sir Hambino was mentioning, so you see what he's talking about. At least I think this one is it. There's a couple of different covers that I've seen, and I think this is probably it looks like, when you look close, it looks to me maybe like Kaladin doing an Iron Man landing.
It's like, yeah, that's the Iron Man thing going on there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it looks like he's holding a spear too. So
yeah, there's the thing is, there's like, I think there's 2 covers for this one, and
I like how it has like rock butts and stuff in there too.
Yeah.
Here's the other image that I have seen. I'm pretty sure this one, I feel like there was that Kaladin cover, and then I think there's a Shallan cover, or maybe this is the interior art that he was talking about. I just know that this image very much speaks to, like, I've seen this in relation to this book a lot, and I was thinking it was a cover, but it may be the internal cover that he was mentioning. But I'll share this one too of Shallan.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that in the background? Is that an
I know,
accent?
right? The weird little. I'm like, that's not even a weird little crab thing. What the hell is that? Good times.
Flying scorpion.
Maybe.
Could be an axe hound, but
No, it's too tiny.
well, oh yeah.
It's like on the rock with her. It's got to be like.
For some reason, I thought that was
little-
in the distance, but yeah, you're
It's
right.
got to be a
It's the same
small
rock.
little like crab bug thing.
It's like, oh yeah, this image is really pretty. What the fuck?
This is. So hold on. Now I got to go back to the Way of Kings cover to talk about this. But it's like,
Oh god.
the
Imagine
image
if that was a giant crab thing in the background, and it was like, it's Godzilla. Ah!
So this is the image from the Way of Kings cover, or really, this is the larger image that the cover takes a piece of, essentially. But it's
Okay.
it's like a guy standing in the foreground, and then another guy like across these like chasms, and then there's sort of a storm going on. And so when this came out, there's a lot of speculation about like who is, like, if you look closely, this guy in the foreground has like, looks like he's got like a crab on his red cape.
And on his flag.
And on his flag. So it was like, oh, who is this supposed? Is this supposed to be like Dalinar or Kaladin, or what's going on? And if I recall correctly, Brandon's basically said that like This isn't a scene from the book. This isn't anybody from the book. This is just like the art that someone came up with that they ended up using.
It's like it doesn't fit, but it looks cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
and the guy across the chasm could be Parshendi, maybe. He's like, give me back my flag and my cape.
It's like, you took my crab cape. I need it back. Okay, here it is. Somebody asked him, this is from 2020. Somebody asked him, of all your books, which cover is your favorite? And he says, the cover of or the original Way of Kings, because of the meaning Michael Whelan's pictures and paintings have in my life. The fact that I got a Whelan cover, it's so iconic for me for Way of Kings. So it was about like, this was an artist that he really liked, and so he got them to do a cover, and it's not necessarily, the most relevant in every way. Although, I mean, it looks like they're on a shattered plane sort of situation, and there's crabs, so, And then they asked him, how much control do you have over the cover for Words of Radiance? And he's like, some, by dint of being fairly well known in the industry, but I'm really fond of Whelan's work and more likely to pick a direction from concept sketches than push Whelan somewhere entirely new. So in that case, he's still like, look, I like this guy's work. I'm not going to be too nitpicky about it. But I believe what I've also heard is by the time we get to the cover of the third book, like, he has got more say in getting it like to be more of what he wants it to be. So quick discussion of covers since that question came up. All right. Those were our emails. We didn't have any other things, so we can wrap this up. If you'd like to send us an email like those folks did, the address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram and X and Facebook and places like that, including Patreon, where you can sign up for our Patreon to see mostly me, mostly hear me reacting to new books. I finished recording the 3 episodes I was doing for Long Chills and Case Dough, the little book that came with the last year of Sanderson box, but I haven't edited them yet, so those will be going up. It's a weird one, I have to say, but that's going. And then now that I finished that, I'm probably going to try to start Dragonsteel Prime at some point, and I'll record those too. But check out the Patreon if you want that, and there's a few other things that get posted up there. But find us there. You can find us. You can join our Discord channel. The link is on our website, www.thesanderlanche.com, to join our Discord server. If you want to chat it up there with the other people, other listeners, talking about various things. Like I said, we're doing a bunch of chapters. We got 5 chapters for next time, if you're following along. Music by Miracle of Sound. And Wuzzing to the Time of Next. Colo, P.S. Vasher. Crabs ahoy!
You forgot your name. Don't let your spirit fade away. Amnesia, you've been through such pain. You're growing stronger every day. Amnesia.